Hi, this is Suzanne Wachtel, and today I want to talk about something that we all experience. It's a trigger in our brains that is a survival trigger, and it's called fight or flight, which translates to stay and fight or run for the hills as fast as you can. So in our brains, as you can see in the cover picture, my daughter is calm and regulated, and you can see through my facial expression that my fight or flight has definitely been triggered. So fight or flight is a basic human emotion, and it goes back as early as the cavemen, where if there was danger, your brain got like an impulse that said there was danger, like a red flag, an alert, and you either stayed and your adrenaline is pumping, and it's actually like a physical state, kind of like sadness and anger and joy. But fight or flight is a reactive trigger. So if something you were in danger, right? Your brain would either figure out and assess the situation. Your adrenaline literally starts to pump. You feel totally energized. Your heart is racing faster. Your anxiety, your fear. And then the adrenaline literally can, you know how people say that they saw someone get run over and they could lift the car. And it has happened because you're in such a state of trigger of fight or flight that you can almost do like impossible things. Flight would mean running away as fast as you can. Sometimes you feel the urge to go to the bathroom, which makes you lighter for the run. The other one is your heart breathing quickly, short and shallow breaths, and it can save you. And then at times, in modern times, when we are not always in danger, right? Our fight or flight gets triggered way too often. And when we are triggered way too often, we become anxious, we become stressed out, we just become very reactive. And the goal in life, as you've heard in many of these podcasts, is to find a way through self-care, through friendship, through joy, through travel, through spiritual practice, through therapy, through many, the list is endless, many tools and techniques to keep our minds and thus our bodies regulated, calm and peaceful, even though the news is really triggering, life events are super triggering, financial status is triggering, children, family is triggering, relationships are triggering. There's a myriad of triggers that we experience. Sometimes it's just our parent can trigger us, a friend can trigger us, a neighbor, someone being disrespectful, not appreciating you. Like there are so many, the list is endless of triggers. So I want you to visualize like a right angle. So think of the flat bottom part as stability, being grounded and regulated. Okay, so that is a state that when you're calm, you're feeling safe, you're feeling peaceful, you're in charge of your emotions. That is a state of being regulated. Okay, now something happens, perhaps out of your control, maybe in your control. You're driving in a calm, careless, in a cautious way to work. You're listening to your favorite song. You're at a light, minding your own business, and boom, someone crashes into your car. They were texting, they weren't paying attention, or it was just an accident. Now suddenly you're triggered, right? You're triggered into fight or flight, and think of the other side of this grounded line going up into dysregulated. And being dysregulated means that your fight or flight got triggered. It could be that somebody criticized you. It could be you watched the news and there was a terrible event that happened, or you got a phone call that somebody got hurt or passed away, or, they lost a job, or, there's so many things that can take you from regulated, trigger you, and thus you become dysregulated. Now, when we're dysregulated, we are literally in a state called fight or flight. Our brain is producing a lot of adrenaline. We're feeling very scared and perhaps anxious and out of control. And so that is dysregulated. And when you notice that you've been triggered and now you're in fight or flight, which I call dysregulated, it's super important to use all of these tools that I talk about. At that very moment, if you can just stop and take a breath, it sounds so simple. But notice that you're really triggered. You're in the beginning state of fight or flight, and you want to gain back your emotional control and go back to regulated, calm, in control. So the first thing to do is to take a deep breath, perhaps through your nose, and hold it in for the count of 4. Breathe in through your nose, and it stimulates glands that produce a calming effect. Hold in the breath and let it out slowly through your pursed lips. The idea is to take 4 of these breaths in that very moment. No one even has to know what you're doing. You're breathing in, calming down, and the oxygen will literally go to your brain when you're in fight or flight and calm you down. It will allow you to tell your mind that you're safe and that you're okay. And now you can start to calm down. Notice your heart racing and just breathe through it and tell yourself everything's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. Everything will be better if you're calm. Once you go into fight or flight, if you allow yourself to dysregulate and continue to stay in that dysregulated state, things become a blur. Your choices are not as intelligent. You're kind of reactive rather than thinking. We have a wonderful brain that really is so unique as human beings, and we have the power to think through and find solutions to crises, to problems. We have to evaluate the situation. And really, by staying calm, our minds work much more efficiently. Once you're calm and you know that you're safe and you've evaluated the situation, you kind of look around. Perhaps we'll go back to that little fender bender, and you see that no one is injured except for, the fear and the trauma that was just created that you've experienced. So now you can assess it and calm down, and then you figure out what you do next, whether it's call the police or, call your family member, or do you just find out what to do next, a good choice. Other things can happen in relationships. Sometimes somebody triggers you with words. Words are, oh my God, so powerful. And if somebody hurts your feelings, insults you, says something that you feel is disrespectful or diminishing, that can trigger. Okay, that can trigger from grounded to, dysregulated. And so it's so important to go back to not taking anything personally, breathing to gain your self-control and your calmness, and then figuring out, do you want to just react, or do you want to take your time and figure out if you should react, if you should say something in response? But it'll be much healthier typically and much more productive if you recognize this fight or flight, calm yourself down, assess the situation, think about if you're taking it personally or not. Why were you triggered? If you take just a moment to analyze, it will help you be in control of fight or flight and your dysregulated emotion. We all have it, from children to 98-year-olds. People, human beings, have emotional states. And the goal is to find a way to really maintain a calm state, no matter what's happening, a peaceful state. And by doing that, it's really being aware of your triggers, of when you become dysregulated, and how to first calm down, recognize it, and then figure out a solution. Because everything pretty much, even if there's no solution, that could be the solution. There's not always an answer to everything that's going on. And sometimes when you don't know what to do or how to react, doing nothing is your best choice. So in that cover picture, where I went to this amazing place in Miami, and it used to be Parrot Jungle. I think it's called Jungle World now. They have an experience with the lemurs. Oh my God. You can see by my expression that my daughter is in a very stable state, and I am in a regulated state and laughing at me. And I got triggered because I didn't expect them jumping all over me, even though they're harmless and adorable. I became dysregulated and went into fight or flight. So I started to breathe and calm down and was able to assess that I was safe. And then it became an amazing memory, and we got a great laugh from the photograph. Thank God someone was there to take that picture. And I just want everyone to understand and be more aware of this fight or flight trigger that creates stress, anxiety, and sometimes a state of mind that makes us really make the wrong choices. And if we know about these things and we have tools to control them, our life will just be more simple and happy and calm and regulated and peaceful, and we'll be able to handle a lot more. So I hope this helps you. And understanding is really the key to success, in my opinion. And I hope you all have a wonderful, regulated, stress-free day. Take care.